We all have those days where putting on socks feels like a grueling Olympic event. But there is a whole different breed of human living among us, folks. I am talking about people whose sheer laziness absolutely defies the laws of physics and basic common sense. Today, we are exposing 55 of the most mind-numbing, outrageously absurd complaints ever filed by individuals who simply refuse to try. Trust me, by the time we finish this list, you will feel like the hardest working person on the planet. Let's dive into the absolute madness. 1. A guest at a luxury hotel actually called the front desk at 2 in the morning in absolute distress. The emergency was that the television remote was resting safely on the dresser, which was approximately 3 feet away from the bed. The man demanded that a staff member come up to his room immediately and hand it to him because he had already tucked himself in. He honestly believed hotel hospitality included acting as his personal biological remote control extension just to change the channel. 2. Blowing out candles is a cherished birthday tradition, but one furious partygoer found the lung capacity required entirely unacceptable. A scathing email was dispatched to a local restaurant management team because the server failed to offer an automatic extinguishing service. Gathering enough breath to blow out 20 tiny flames supposedly left the guest of honor lightheaded and completely exhausted. The customer seriously demanded that the waitstaff stand by the table and violently blow on the cake themselves to prevent this strenuous aerobic workout. 3. Ordering a refreshing drink on a scorching afternoon seems like a pretty harmless activity. That normal situation took a wild turn when a diner patron threw a massive tantrum over the presence of solid ice cubes in their soda glass. The added weight of frozen water supposedly made the cup far too heavy to lift comfortably to their mouth. Management was loudly ordered to magically serve the liquid already chilled to freezing temperatures, without including any heavy floating obstacles. What would you even say to a customer like this? 4. Fast food workers hear wild things every single day. But a woman genuinely threatened legal action against a burger joint because the drive-through window was situated slightly too far from her vehicle. Instead of unbuckling her seatbelt to lean over or just opening her door, she threw a massive tantrum claiming the cashier should have used a mechanical grabber tool to hand over her fries. She left a 1-star review calling the establishment a physically exhausting nightmare for paying customers. 5. Snacking on fresh fruit took a hilariously absurd turn when a grocery store received a complaint about a bag of green grapes. The furious shopper was completely disgusted that the tiny stems were still attached to the fruit. Plucking a single grape off the vine before tossing it into their mouth was described as a grueling agricultural chore that paying customers should never experience. Pre-plucked, levitating fruit was practically expected just to save this person a fraction of a calorie. 6. A fully grown adult actually marched back into a local ice cream parlor completely enraged that his cone was melting all over his hands. He had purchased it 20 minutes prior, walked outside into the humid, 90-degree summer heat, and just sat on a bench scrolling through his phone without taking a single lick. He screamed at a teenage employee demanding a free replacement because they supposedly sold him a defective frozen product that could not withstand his incredibly slow eating habits. 7. Supermarkets have really started catering to extreme convenience lately, but one shopper took it way too far when she loudly complained to a grocery store manager about a standard banana. She was not angry that the fruit was bruised or rotten. She was genuinely furious that the store did not offer bananas that were pre-peeled and conveniently sealed inside little plastic bags. She claimed that having to peel it herself was a massive waste of her valuable time and ruined her freshly manicured nails. 8. An expensive steakhouse received a truly mind-boggling review from a hungry patron who found the actual process of eating entirely too exhausting. Their premium ribeye supposedly required way too much jaw movement to comfortably swallow. The manager was absolutely stunned when the customer loudly suggested that the kitchen staff should pre-chew the meat or blend it into a drinkable meat smoothie to save him the physical labor of mastication. Would you even be able to keep a straight face while dealing with this? 9. Have you ever been so unmotivated that even basic jaw movement feels like a chore? A customer wrote a scathing letter to a major chewing gum manufacturer, complaining that the flavor of their product lasted too long. Yes, you heard that correctly. The person was upset because the minty taste stuck around for hours, forcing them to continue chewing long after they had grown bored of the physical activity. They demanded a new line of gum that dissolves instantly so they would not have to find a trash can. 10. An utterly exhausted shopper filed a formal grievance against a shopping mall because the automatic sliding doors at the main entrance were a few seconds too slow. He stated that he had to break his normal walking stride and pause for a brief moment while the glass panels separated, which completely ruined his momentum for the entire afternoon. He suggested the mall hire employees to manually prop the doors open whenever they saw him walking from the parking lot. Would you have the patience to handle people like this? 11. One luxury apartment resident actually filed a formal grievance with their building manager regarding the elevators. The massive issue was not a mechanical failure or a slow ride to the top floor. This tenant was utterly furious about physically raising an arm to press the floor button. A serious suggestion was made to hire a full-time elevator operator just to save residents the agonizing physical exertion of extending a single index finger. Have you ever encountered someone this allergic to basic movement? 12. Fast food packaging is designed to keep your meal warm, but one extremely unmotivated customer found brown paper bags incredibly offensive. After ordering a burger through a delivery app, a blistering 1-star review was posted online. The driver apparently ruined the entire evening by leaving the sealed bag on the porch instead of coming inside, unpacking the wrapper, and placing the sandwich directly onto a ceramic plate. Expecting a random gig worker to break and enter, just to act as a personal dining butler, is absolutely unhinged. 13. Nut companies occasionally receive bizarre feedback, yet one angry snacker took things to an entirely new level of ridiculousness. A heavily typed email arrived at corporate headquarters demanding financial compensation for a bag of pistachios. The reason for this outrage was the sheer exhaustion caused by cracking open the little shells. Getting to the actual nut required way too much manual labor, completely ruining a relaxing weekend on the couch. Imagine threatening a lawsuit over the natural biology of a plant. 14. Supermarkets installed self-checkout lanes specifically to speed up quick shopping trips, but grabbing items from a cart is apparently backbreaking labor. A store manager was dragged into a shouting match by a shopper absolutely livid that the automated barcode scanner did not magically pull the groceries out of her basket. Waving a box of cereal over a red laser was called an exhausting physical obstacle course that the grocery chain should legally compensate her for completing. Have you ever witnessed a public meltdown over something this insanely trivial? 15. Sliced bread is famously the greatest invention ever made, but apparently it still requires too much effort for certain folks. A local bakery manager was left speechless when a furious regular called to complain about a fresh loaf. The individual slices were resting slightly too close together inside the plastic wrapper. Peeling apart 2 pieces of wheat bread required a tiny bit of wrist strength, which supposedly caused severe morning fatigue. Making a simple turkey sandwich almost put this shopper into a temporary coma. 16. Smart home technology exists specifically to eliminate daily chores, yet speaking out loud is apparently a grueling marathon for some people. A major tech brand received a highly aggressive message because their automated light bulbs required actual vocal commands to turn off. Using vocal cords right before bedtime felt entirely too exhausting for this brilliant consumer. A telepathic lighting system that magically reads minds was fiercely demanded so they could keep their mouth completely shut. Breathing is probably considered a high-intensity workout inside that particular household. 17. Staying hydrated is essential for survival, but cracking open a simple bottle of water proved far too challenging for one angry hiker. A negative review was posted online, blasting a beverage company for screwing their plastic caps on way too tightly. Breaking the tiny plastic seal required a firm grip, which completely exhausted the hand muscles of this customer before they even hit the nature trail. Selling bottles completely open and uncapped was strongly suggested to save everyone the horrible physical hassle. 18. Retrieving the Daily Mail usually takes maybe 30 seconds of light walking. Down in a quiet suburban neighborhood, a homeowner actually called the local postmaster to report a hostile living environment. The massive injustice here was that the mailbox sat at the very end of a short concrete driveway. Walking 20 feet in comfortable slippers was simply out of the question. Tossing the envelopes directly at the front door like a newspaper delivery boy was proposed as the only reasonable compromise to conserve precious energy. 19. A furious customer called a local pizza shop to demand a full refund because the crust on their deep dish pizza was entirely too thick. Now you might think that sounds like a normal preference, but the guy explicitly stated that chewing the crust was burning too many calories and making his jaw tired. He genuinely believed the restaurant should compensate him for the physical labor required to eat the exact meal he ordered. What is the absolute dumbest reason you have ever tried to get your money back? 20. Dental hygiene takes a massive hit when extreme laziness enters the bathroom. A consumer affairs department fielded an absolutely unhinged phone call concerning a standard tube of mint toothpaste. Squeezing the plastic container from the bottom up supposedly caused severe muscle strain in the collar thumb joints. Packaging toothpaste inside a highly pressurized aerosol can, similar to whipped cream, was fiercely advocated to prevent this daily morning tragedy. Brushing those teeth must be the most physically demanding part of this person's entire week. 21. Modern architecture usually aims for pure convenience, but one office worker completely lost his mind over a standard revolving door. A furious email was sent to building management because the massive glass panels actually required a gentle push to keep spinning. Waiting for the person in front of him to do all the physical labor was apparently his daily strategy, and getting stuck inside ruined his entire morning. He seriously demanded a fully motorized version so he could just stand completely frozen like a mannequin until he popped out into the lobby. 22. Footwear companies constantly innovate with crazy designs, yet a major sneaker brand received a wildly aggressive letter about standard shoelaces. Bending over to tie a simple knot was described as a primitive and exhausting daily punishment by one very disgruntled customer. A full refund was demanded because the brand refused to send a representative to his house every morning to safely secure his footwear. Self-tying shoes from vintage science fiction movies were cited as the absolute minimum standard for modern living. Can you even fathom having this level of pure entitlement? 23. Cleaning the house has never been easier thanks to robotic vacuums that do 90% of the dirty work. That tiny bit of remaining effort was still far too much for one incredibly angry tech reviewer. A scathing online post blasted the manufacturer because the expensive machine did not magically empty its own dustbin directly into the outdoor garbage can. Dumping a small plastic cup of dirt once a week was called an unacceptable physical burden that completely defeated the purpose of automation. Some folks really just want to live inside a magical cartoon. 24. Fancy restaurants pride themselves on premium table service, but a lovely evening out turned into a bizarre confrontation over basic seasoning. A diner threw a massive temper tantrum because the waiter handed him a fresh pepper grinder instead of twisting it for him. The rotational wrist movement required to season his own steak was apparently not included in the steep price of the meal. Management was actually summoned to the table because twisting a wooden cylinder for 3 seconds was considered dangerous manual labor unfit for a paying patron. 25. Tracking daily steps is a fantastic way to stay healthy, assuming you actually get off the living room couch. One wildly confused user submitted a highly critical bug report to a smartwatch developer because their expensive device failed to log any activity during a 2-hour session in a vibrating massage chair. Getting credit for a brutal fitness workout while literally taking a nap was genuinely expected. The customer service team had to politely explain that aggressively jiggling in place does not legally count as actual human locomotion. 26. Public libraries are sacred places of free knowledge, yet a local librarian was left totally baffled by a complaint regarding a standard hardcover novel. A patron returned a massive fantasy book after just 2 days, aggressively claiming the physical weight of the paper was completely straining his forearms. Reading in bed was supposedly impossible because holding the story open required way too much bicep strength. A formal request was made to chop all thick books into 10-page pamphlets to prevent severe muscle fatigue. How do these people survive daily life? 27. Basic hygiene is a mandatory part of being a functioning adult, but standing up in the shower proved too physically demanding for one exceptionally tired individual. A hardware store received a hilarious return request for a luxury shower head because gravity forced the water straight down. Standing upright for 5 whole minutes was deemed a totally unreasonable societal expectation. The customer angrily inquired if they sold a human-sized car wash conveyor belt so he could just lay flat on a waterproof mattress while automated scrubbers did all the scrubbing. 28. Air travel already involves endless hours of just sitting around, yet one passenger managed to find an excuse to complain about zero-effort safety measures. A flight attendant was flagged down right before takeoff by a man furious over the metal seatbelt buckle resting heavily on his lower stomach. Lifting the tiny latch to unbuckle himself at the end of the flight was described as a completely unnecessary struggle. He strongly demanded a Velcro alternative because pushing a small metal button required entirely too much finger dexterity for a first-class ticket holder. 29. Binge-watching television is practically an international sport these days, which makes this next complaint totally mind-blowing. A frustrated subscriber threw an absolute fit on a customer service form about that little screen, prompting them to confirm they were still watching. Reaching for the remote to press the OK button once every 4 hours was described as a borderline human rights violation. Demanding eye-tracking cameras just to avoid moving a muscle was their brilliant solution. Could you imagine being that aggressively lazy? 30. Navigating modern highways takes just a little bit of mental focus, which completely outraged a driver relying on a brand new GPS unit. A raging customer service call was recorded where the driver blamed the navigation software for safely routing him down a winding country road. The massive problem was not the beautiful scenery, but the fact that he actually had to turn his steering wheel slightly to the left and right. He genuinely demanded a software update that only provided perfectly straight lines so his arms could rest entirely motionless. 31. Every new pet owner knows that bringing a puppy home comes with a few standard daily chores. That memo clearly missed one guy who furiously contacted a local dog breeder demanding a complete cash refund. The unbelievable grievance here was that his golden retriever completely lacked the ability to take itself outside for a morning bathroom break. Merely opening the back door and tossing a tennis ball was described as an agonizing, sweat-inducing daily struggle. A genetically modified breed that magically operates a doorknob was requested instead. 32. Fitness centers are designed for physical exertion, yet a man furiously canceled his expensive gym membership because he was asked to put away his own weights. He wrote an absolutely unhinged email to the owners, arguing that since he pays a monthly fee, the staff should be trailing right behind him to re-rack the heavy dumbbells so he can conserve his precious energy. He literally went to a place designed for lifting heavy things and then complained about having to lift a heavy thing. 33. A completely unhinged phone call rang the front desk of a luxury hotel at 3 in the morning. An exhausted man demanded immediate room service because turning over in bed was apparently an impossible feat. His massive emergency was that his pillow had gotten entirely too warm, and lifting his head to flip it to the cool side required an unacceptable amount of neck strength. A dedicated employee standing by the mattress just to rotate the linens was his brilliant solution to this nocturnal crisis. 34. Heavy thunderstorms usually prompt people to open a simple umbrella, but carrying a lightweight metal stick proved far too grueling for one angry shopper. Marching right back into a department store dripping wet, this absolutely furious individual claimed the rain gear was totally defective because it lacked a personal anti-gravity floating feature. Gripping a plastic handle for 10 blocks was deemed a punishing arm workout that no paying customer should ever have to endure under any circumstances. 35. The ultimate modern luxury is having absolutely everything delivered directly to your front porch. That extreme convenience still fell completely short for an enraged online shopper who blasted a retail giant on social media. The massive injustice was that the cardboard boxes arrived heavily taped, forcing the buyer to actually locate scissors and slice through the packaging. Releasing those precious items from their cardboard prison felt like hard manual labor, prompting a demand for boxes that magically dissolve. 36. 60 seconds of waiting by the counter is practically an eternity for the truly unmotivated. A major appliance manufacturer fielded an aggressive customer support call from a guy absolutely disgusted by his new microwave. Pressing the start button was fine, but standing idly in the kitchen waiting for a single minute was described as agonizing psychological torture. He fiercely advocated for a teleportation device that beams hot food directly onto his living room coffee table to bypass the horrific waiting period. 37. True relaxation completely eluded a local spa client who found the entire massage process ridiculously exhausting. A formal complaint was filed because the therapist gently asked the client to roll onto their back halfway through the session. Engaging core muscles for 2 entire seconds completely ruined the peaceful afternoon vibe. A complex mechanical table that softly flips human beings like giant pancakes was seriously suggested to prevent this horrific physical exertion. What is the most absurd demand you have ever witnessed? 38. Free drinking fountains keep park visitors refreshed during sunny afternoon walks, yet grabbing a quick sip was a massive physical ordeal for one particular citizen. A furious letter was mailed to the city council complaining about the incredibly steep angle required to lean forward and catch the water stream. Bending at the waist was compared to an Olympic gymnastics routine. Installing automatic motion sensor hoses that shoot hydration directly into the mouths of passing pedestrians was their primary demand. 39. Guest relations at a massive theme park dealt with a screaming mother who demanded a VIP golf cart for her completely healthy teenagers. Walking between roller coasters was apparently an awful tragedy for her family. Strolling 50 yards from the haunted house to the funnel cake stand had supposedly drained all their vital energy. She passionately argued that expensive admission tickets should legally include a personal rickshaw driver so nobody ever has to use their legs during a supposedly fun summer vacation. 40. Controlling smart electronics without lifting a single finger completely enraged a tech-savvy couch potato who posted a blistering rant on a consumer forum. His expensive brand-new television required him to actually press a tiny microphone button on the remote before yelling his commands out into the empty room. Locating the plastic controller buried somewhere beneath his sofa cushions completely defeated the purpose of a lazy Sunday afternoon. Do you think humanity has finally peaked with complaints exactly like this one? 41. One incredibly irritated beachgoer left a scathing review for a coastal resort, claiming the staff completely ruined her tanning schedule. Her massive problem was that the sun shifted across the sky during the afternoon, and the resort employees refused to physically move her lounge chair to follow the light. She argued that she paid for a premium vacation and should not be expected to get up and drag her own chair across the sand. Imagine thinking the hospitality staff controls planetary rotation. 42. Bathroom routines reached an unprecedented level of absurdity when a hotel guest absolutely lost their mind over a standard toilet paper dispenser. Reaching 12 inches to the left of the seat was apparently equivalent to pulling a hamstring. Front desk staff received a deeply aggressive phone call demanding a robotic arm that hands over individual squares upon vocal command. Can you imagine calling another human being into your restroom just to avoid stretching your torso for 2 seconds? 43. Adopting a fluffy kitten seems like a guaranteed path to relaxation. One deeply confused owner completely disagreed and tried to return a rescue animal for being physically demanding. The bizarre grievance stated that the cat refused to proactively rub itself against the human hand while they were playing video games. Having to actively extend an arm and stroke the fur was considered an unfair division of domestic labor. The shelter workers were left completely speechless by this outrageous level of laziness. 44. Protecting your skin at the beach is just basic health and safety. Yet a wildly upset tourist demanded a full refund from a sunscreen manufacturer, because rubbing the lotion into their arms required manual friction. The customer claimed the company should invent a pill that magically deflects ultraviolet rays, so nobody ever has to endure the brutal physical labor of applying a topical cream. Getting a sunburn was apparently preferable to spending 30 seconds massaging a lightweight gel into their own shoulders. 45. Scrolling down a web page is quite literally the easiest action on a computer. An angry consumer actually filed a formal complaint with a major news website because reading a long article forced them to spin the little wheel on their computer mouse. Flicking an index finger every few minutes was cited as a major cause of extreme hand fatigue. A telepathic interface that scrolls automatically as the eyes move down the monitor was aggressively demanded to cure this horrific technological injustice. 46. Mexican restaurants serve some of the most delicious handheld meals on earth, but eating a hard-shell taco proved disastrous for one incredibly lazy diner. A blistering online review blasted a local cantina because consuming the meal required tilting their head at a slight 45-degree angle. Bending the neck sideways supposedly caused severe muscle strain before the second bite. Serving perfectly straight tacos that can be eaten directly forward was heavily requested to avoid this agonizing dining experience. 47. Waking up early is tough for everyone, yet one incredibly sleepy individual took their frustration out on an alarm clock company. A handwritten letter expressed pure rage over the snooze button being located on top of the device. Reaching over to the nightstand to silence the beeping noise disrupted the delicate morning resting phase entirely too much. A voice-activated snooze feature that responds to exhausted groaning was suggested as the only humane way to let people sleep for 5 more minutes. 48. Valet parking is designed to make luxury dining completely effortless. That service still disappointed a wealthy driver who threw a massive tantrum outside a fancy steakhouse. The valet smoothly parked the vehicle, but the customer was utterly livid that the attendant did not physically lift their legs out of the car. Swiveling their hips to exit the driver's seat was called an exhausting obstacle course that ruined the entire evening. What kind of completely pampered reality does this person even live in? 49. An angry tourist wrote a heavily capitalized complaint letter to the management of a historic European cathedral. The architecture was stunning, but this guy was absolutely livid that after riding the elevator all the way up to the observation deck, he had to walk down exactly 10 steps to reach the exit. He demanded to know why the 16th century builders did not consider installing an escalator for the descent. Does anybody else want to travel back in time just to smack this guy? 50. Slipping into a pair of comfortable loafers is supposed to take half a second. One incredibly aggravated buyer somehow found a way to struggle and angrily emailed a footwear company about their slip-on shoes. The massive problem was that the heel slightly folded inward, forcing the wearer to briefly use an index finger as a shoehorn. Bending down to adjust a piece of leather for one moment was considered absolute torture. A built-in robotic mechanism to perfectly guide the foot was furiously demanded instead. 51. Watching a stunning sunset is the perfect way to end a beach vacation. But one incredibly unmotivated tourist filed a formal complaint at a luxury resort. The blazing sun was dropping perfectly over the ocean, yet this guest was completely furious that they actually had to turn their heads sideways to see it from the balcony. Bending their neck 45 degrees was described as an agonizing physical ordeal. A serious demand was made to magically rotate the entire hotel building so the sunset aligned perfectly with their lounge chair. 52. The invention of the remote control was the ultimate victory for couch potatoes everywhere. That incredible convenience was still completely insufficient for one raging consumer who called a television manufacturer in pure disgust. Their massive grievance was that the volume buttons were located too close together, forcing them to slightly adjust their thumb placement to turn up the sound. The tiny millimeter shift was cited as a major source of extreme hand fatigue. A telepathic volume dial was aggressively suggested to cure this horrific technological injustice. 53. Taking a hot bath should be the ultimate relaxation experience for anyone with sore muscles. That soothing vibe was completely ruined when a homeowner aggressively complained to their local hardware store about a standard bathtub faucet. The boiling rage stemmed entirely from the fact that turning the metal knob required gripping it with 4 fingers. A gentle twist of the wrist was deemed a totally unreasonable expectation before slipping into the water. Voice-activated plumbing that fills the tub to exact temperatures was fiercely demanded instead. 54. Grabbing a quick snack from the vending machine usually requires zero physical exertion. One extremely hungry office worker completely lost their mind over a bag of potato chips getting stuck against the glass. The unbelievable grievance was that shaking the heavy metal machine gently to dislodge the snack was completely exhausting. A blistering email was sent to the vendor, demanding the immediate installation of mechanical robotic arms inside the glass to gently toss the Doritos directly into waiting hands. Have you ever witnessed a grown adult throw a tantrum over a bag of chips? 55. Sipping on a frozen margarita by the pool is a quintessential summer activity, but one absolutely lazy vacationer found the temperature completely unbearable. A blistering 1-star review was left for a bartender because the icy drink gave them an instant brain freeze. The customer seriously argued that the server should have proactively warned them about the physical dangers of consuming blended ice too quickly. A demand was actually made for pre-warmed frozen drinks that magically stay solid without causing any discomfort. Expecting the staff to alter the fundamental laws of thermodynamics is a whole new level of crazy. There you have it, folks. The absolute pinnacle of human laziness, captured in 55 hilarious complaints. From demanding pre-chewed steaks to expecting hotel staff to physically rotate the building for a better view, these people truly belong in a league of their own. Now I need to know, what is the most outrageously lazy thing you have ever caught yourself doing? Drop your confessions in the comments below. If this video made you laugh, smash that like button and make sure to subscribe for more unbelievable stories.